Hey everybody, I wanted to talk to you for a couple of minutes about one of the most important moments of the rest of your life, which is going to be the first 2 weeks that you're at college. When I was 19 years old, I was kayaking with my kayaking mentor. His name was actually Guy Rocker. And we were at a particular rapid on the Black River, one of the most dangerous rivers in New York State. And it was a rapid called Rocket Rapid. And he said, Nick, this doesn't look like a super hard rapid, but it actually is much more dangerous than you think, because we're going to do about a 20-foot drop off of a dam. And then the river doglegs to the left. But under the rock on the far end of the river, there's this underwater cavern that's been carved out by the river. And so if you go down the rapid, you get flipped over and you get pushed up against those rocks. You can get pushed up underneath that little cavern and you can drown in there. So even though it's not super dangerous, if you're careful and you know what you're doing, you can get through it. But if you don't, these dangers multiply on each other and create actually a pretty dangerous rapid. If you're careful, it'll be great. If you're not, bad things can happen. So we got in the boats, we did the drop, everything went perfectly, and by the end of the day, I had paddled one of the most dangerous and most exciting rivers I'd ever paddled. In some ways, college is like that. It's going to be one of the most exciting times of your life so far. It's going to be exhilarating. There's going to be a lot of dangers, but a lot of opportunities. Your life is really changing, and you're taking adulthood by the reins in a way that you haven't yet, probably, okay? However, for your faith, mainly, and for your development as a person, college is actually a fairly dangerous time as well. You're setting your course for a few years, which sets your course for a decade, which sets your course for all of your adult development and the rest of your life. And what you do in the first 2 weeks you go to college sets your trajectory for possibly the rest of your life in your faith. And so I want to talk about just a couple of things. The first is I want to talk about the converging dangers. When you go to college, there's probably more, but let's just focus on 3 converging dangers that if you pay attention to them, you can navigate them fine. And if you don't, it can create a lot of danger for your faith, and through that, your development as a person and who you really are going to become. The first is that you're going to have unlimited access with sensual access, right? You're going to have unlimited freedom and sensual access. So there's no parents, you can do what you want, you can set your own schedule, and all of the things that your nervous system wants are going to be right there. You can sleep all day, you can have terrible waking sleeping schedules, you can get drugs and alcohol, you can have sex with whoever you want, you can play video games for all your life, you can do whatever makes you feel good in the moment, all the time. And that's really tempting when you don't have a parent anymore to be like, hey, go to bed, shut your mouth, turn the video game off, eat right. You're gonna have to do all this stuff yourself because you're gonna have unlimited freedom, but you're gonna have sensual access. And you have to prepare yourself to be your own disciplinarian, to choose how to direct the course of your life for your own health, your own development, and for your own godliness, right? The second is that there's just no accountability. For most of your life, you've hopefully had fairly robust accountability structures. You've had a church around you, you've had a family around you, you've had maybe Christian friends or a youth group that you were part of, and they kind of helped you stay with Jesus, with all the other influences in your life. You're gonna leave those things to go to college. And so if you don't find new ones, all of that support structure in your faith and in your development in those ways is all going to be gone. And thirdly is the content assault. Most universities, even ones that are called Christian universities, are for the most part chock full of anti-Christian ideologies that are also mostly reasonable. So you're going to go into classes where there's a lot of ideas that sound like really reasonable and exciting and helpful, stuff that you may not have even heard before, but because they were developed outside of the mind of Christ, they also have major problems with them, right? And those won't be super obvious to you as an intellectual beginner. Plus, accepting those ideologies you're going to come in contact with in the university, there's going to be a lot of acceptance pressure. There's going to be a whole community that buys into this entirely and says, you should accept it. And you're going to have a lot of emotional pressure on you to accept it. And so people will open doors for you so that you can have a future. Plus, frankly, there's a lot of your personal vanity involved because they're going to tell you that if you believe in these ideologies, it makes you smart, it makes you intelligent, it makes you educated, it makes you a good person, as opposed to those terrible people who believe those stupid ideas that you came from. And here's the thing, it's not just any one of these individual things. They're all coming together at the same time, and as they come together at the same time, they have a multiplying effect to knock you off course in your walk with Christ. But more than that, over all of the university life, there is this assumption about what human life is all about. It's something you might call expressive individualism. The whole point of human life is our job is to feel our feelings on the inside, be who we want to be, and express it mightily. Just be who we are. right? And that comes in opposition to having an identity that God has given you that has a form and a structure and a truth, that you are a son of God, that you are a daughter of God, that you are a disciple of Jesus, that you are an ambassador of the gospel, right? That you are a man or woman created in God's image to live out his purposes in the world, and that you are to seek your joy in and through that. That teleological or designed perfect identity from God is who you are. But you're going to be told you can be whoever you want to be, to seek whatever you want to seek, to do whatever you want to do, to be whoever you think you want to become. And that ideology is just everywhere and never explicitly spoken. And so it can become really, really seductive. So if you want to chart a course to follow Jesus, to know him, to be formed in Christ, to become the kind of person he's made you to be, you need to deliberately choose to chart a course, and then you need to follow that with discipline. And you need to start and you need to give yourself that course in the first moments you get to campus. The first 2 weeks are the most critical. There was research done by InterVarsity Christian Fellowship years ago about people coming to campus. And you would think that like people were like open-minded the whole time they were on college, but it's not true. When they did surveys with students, in the first 2 weeks those students were on campus, 80% of those students said they were open to talking about spiritual things. 2 weeks later, they did the same survey, and it was down to 20% in just 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks of college will change you for the good or for ill, or in ways you either plan on or didn't plan on, right? So there's 4 things I think you should do to chart your course, to follow Jesus, develop as a human being, be the person God made you to be. The first is, if you have not already, you need to develop and start consistent, daily quiet times or devotional times. That is times where you read the Bible, you meditate on what it says, you pray and ask for God's leadership regularly. When I was a freshman, that was 11 to 12. Everybody in my dorm knew that, like, don't ask Nick to go to lunch at 11:30 because he's going to say no. In fact, by about 5 weeks into my freshman semester, people would come to my room to invite me to lunch or to go play soccer, and I would just point to the clock. And they went, oh, right, Nick reads his Bible and prays and journals between 11 and 12. Everybody knew it, right? Because I had a devotional time, and I knew I desperately needed that. And I'll tell you what, I didn't really do that before I was a freshman in college. I did it that whole year, and I was a different person at the end of that year with 1 hour of study a day. The second is, decide that you're going to be public about your faith. Listen, at the university, you're allowed to come out in any way you want. I want to encourage you early in your Christian life at college to come out as a Christian, to publicly be known that you belong to Jesus, you follow him, you know him, and you trust in him. And you're willing to accept whatever scorn that requires, but you are his, and that's who you are, and everybody can know it. The third is you need deliberate and regular Christian fellowship. The minute you get on campus, you should find out where does Crew meet? Where does Chi Alpha meet? Where does InterVarsity meet? Where do the Navigators meet? Where are the Christian groups that meet? Is there a Bible study in my dorm? Is there a Bible study for my age group? Is there something that I can get involved in with Christians? Now listen, you may feel like you didn't have good experiences at churches or you didn't really like small groups. Look, just go. The Bible explicitly teaches us it's incredibly important to be in Christian fellowship. It doesn't really even matter if you like it. But you can have a lot of influence on how good it is. I mean, by your second year, you could be a Bible study leader if you wanted to. But go and hear God's word and be around Christians and worship God and do those things. And just as important as being in a college fellowship is to get up on Sunday morning and find a ride and go to a church that preaches the gospel. Maybe not your home church, even if you're in the same town, but a church that other students go to where the gospel is preached and where Jesus is worshiped. Go every week. It's not time to play football. It's not time to like hang out or sleep in or whatever. Even if you decide you're going to go out and hang out with friends till 2 a.m., you set your alarm, you get your butt out of bed, and you go to church, right? And we're not just looking for Christian fellowship. You're also looking for a substantial number of Christian friendships. People who you see outside of Crew or church or whatever, where they're part of your life and part of your social life. Does that make sense? And then lastly, I'd encourage you to find a spiritual mentor. And a spiritual mentor that is capable relative to your needs. So if you're a really intellectual person and you're struggling most with the intellectual assaults of college life, find a really smart person who's worked through some of that stuff that can really help you. If you struggle with the sensual stuff, you just want to have friends and you just want to be out there and hey, you just want to drink some drinks and do some stuff. Find somebody who struggled with that themselves and how did they figure out how to follow Jesus even though they had these desires to have a really vibrant and exciting social life, and how you can or can't have both in a certain way that you might have already imagined. So let me just leave with this. Either you chart your course or it will be charted for you. How your course of your life is charted in these 4 years of college is going to affect the decade of your 20s, which will affect all the rest of the decades of your life. The course for the 4 years of college will almost certainly be set your first 2 weeks on campus. What you decide to do your first 2 weeks on campus is the decision of who you're going to be for those 4 years. And it may be the decision to who you're going to be at 20, 30, 40, and 50 years old. These first weeks are incredibly important for your development, and especially the development of your faith. You have to decide who you are. Are you just going to be an expressive individualist and go with the flow of college and just do whatever comes natural? Or are you going to find out what it means in a new place, in a place that may or may not accept who you already are, what it looks like to be a son or daughter of God, what it looks like to be a disciple of Jesus the Christ, and what it looks like to be an ambassador for the gospel. I hope you discuss this with other seniors. I hope you discuss it with your parents too. See you guys later. Oh, and one more thing. I basically just outlined the first chapter in this book, Game Plan, which is about the transition to college life. It's a book I wrote years ago. I hope this helps you.